What is up, Fit Fam? We are back. QUADCast, episode 4. I didn't know which episode it was because it's been a minute, but I just asked Jaci and she knew. How are you doing today, Jaci?
I'm doing awesome. I'm happy to be back in studio.
Yes, we are back after a little hiatus, but here we are. And a lot has been going on since the last episode, but let's talk real quick about what the topic of the day is going to be today so that everybody knows to hang out with us.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about nutrition for bodybuilding and particularly like show prep, how you can maximize your results by the food that you choose.
Yeah, and we're going to take a deeper look into, your journey too, Jaci, and talk a little bit about what you've learned over time. You've been doing this, a couple days now. You've been coaching, training, for wellness, everything else, right? So let's talk about that. So really, nutrition is what percentage, Jaci, would you say nutrition is of a prep, right? I'm just going to throw curveballs at you this whole episode.
Yeah. So if you're prepping for a show, essentially you're just dieting down, right? So nutrition becomes like 100% of your focus, because now you've got to dial in your diet and get lean. So I would say it's 100%.
Yeah. I like that answer because it really is a vast, big piece of it, right? Like obviously you still got to train, you still got to do these things, but if you don't have the nutrition piece, it's really game over. Like you can expect to get to stage, you can still get to stage, don't get me wrong, if you do, a little while with your nutrition here and there, but are you going to be as good as you could have been? Or, are you going to bring exactly what you want? And the answer would be no, because it does take a very finite focus on nutrition. And obviously when it comes to bodybuilding, competing wellness, so on and so forth, there's a lot of very bad practices that go on to this day. They have forever. It's like bodybuilding's the one sport where all the bad things that people can look back on, right, and be like, wow, like in the world, we do this all the time, right? We look back on different things throughout history and we're like, wow, that was really crazy. Why did everybody do that? We should never do that again. Bodybuilding, we don't do that. We look back on, the horror stories of bodybuilding and the way that things are done and we say, oh, maybe that's the answer. So I don't know why that happens. Maybe you have an idea, Jaci, but give us an idea. Have you ever been through any of the kind of horror story stuff, the starvation diets, the crazy meal plans, the crazy this and that?
Yeah, I actually commented on like a wellness post the other day for somebody about the types of foods that she was eating and things. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I think that, you're on the right track. And a lady commented back and said, oh, you're a bodybuilder, so I know what you eat. And I was like, oh, I was a little burned at first. And then I was like, no, actually, you don't know anything about what I eat. But in fairness to her, I told her I understand the stigma because there is such a big stigma around bodybuilder diets, right? Like a bro diet. Yeah. We only eat fish and broccoli and we do whatever it takes to get lean. And I just, I'm guilty. I've done it. I've done that very, very same thing. But it was like trying to bust the myth of like, there's only one way to get to stage and, you have to starve. I think that was her thing. And, or maybe suggesting that I do some type of other third thing to get to the goal. But she was very much clear about there's a stigma around how we eat and what we do.
Yeah, and the stigma is, it's funny because we still think about this like bodybuilders and coaches, me and you being coaches and everything else, is we look at, nutrition in a totally different way than the rest of the world does, but especially in a way even true for like new competitors, right? And this is why newer competitors, beginners, so on and so forth, end up making so many mistakes, is because when you come into the arena of saying you're going to do a wellness competition or a bikini competition or a bodybuilding event, you're basically walking into a very, very niche, small part of the world, small part of humanity that is, one, willing to even try to do this crazy stuff, and two, can actually pull it off successfully, right? And what you end up seeing is, unfortunately, a lot of misinformation, a lot of bad ideas, a lot of things that maybe do get results in the short term, but will screw you up for the long term, right? And we see this a lot with a lot of things. And, it's very similar to individual fitness journeys, even outside of bodybuilding, right? Like I remember when I first got into fitness a long time ago, right? And I was like, what do I do with this? I mean, granted, I was only like 15 years old. Who knows anything when they're that age? But I was like, what do I do? And, you start looking, you start reading whatever, looking at magazines, Googling things, whatever it is. And there's a billion different answers for the same question, right? So it all becomes like, how do you figure out which one of those to take and what's the right answer? And unfortunately, most people figure out through trial and error, right? So it's very rare to find somebody who actually is a competitor, a bodybuilder, or is very, we could say far along in their fitness journey that hasn't made a lot of mistakes. Right. So Jaci, I have only coached you for, some of your preps. You did compete prior to me. Was that type of prep back then one of the kind of preps where we've talked a little bit about it on the show, but maybe go more into the deep-sided nutrition? Do you remember at all what your nutrition was like back then?
Absolutely, I do. So it's tormented inside of my body. It's like I have PTSD from these preps. In the beginning, it was very much a meal plan, and I was self-coached, but I was also like asking trainers at the gym, like, what do you do and how do you get lean? And a lot of it, I think, was me asking a gym bro, for lack of a better term, because they're the ones that are in the gym with the lean physiques, and you're like, oh wow, they're shredded and they're muscular, so they must know how to get there. Well, I was dumb. I didn't know that there was other things that they were doing to make them look like that. But I thought it was just, it's got to be the food. And being a natural athlete, like, it is all about your food, right? So there were times where I would starve myself, thinking that, okay, that's going to get me leaner, right? Or I was eating cartons of egg whites, like, every single day. And the pasteurized kind, not the kind that is like, a whole egg and then the egg white. It was the processed egg whites. I ate a lot of fish. I hate tilapia, and I despise it just for what I know about it. And I ate that shit.
Right.
Sorry.
Which is crazy, right?
It's crazy. They eat their own feces, and it's like, they're just dirty. And so I ate that. I remember eating a lot of ground turkey. Like
ground turkey. Can't get
pounds of ground turkey. And I think in my mind, it was like, the leaner the cut, the better, right? It's better for me because it's lean. So I want to be lean. So I'm going to eat lean. And that was the misconception. I think I ate a lot of oatmeal, which I don't even touch anymore, but I ate a lot of oatmeal, cream of rice, protein powders, and spinach, like veggies. And I wish I could like inlay a picture of how my body looked then versus how it looks now, because I thought that was the one way, right? There's only one way. And I just kind of looked like dried up. Like, my body just looks so depleted of minerals and nutrients. And I didn't know that was the look. I thought, well, I'm suffering, so it must be working. But you live and you learn.
Yeah. And, you just described the diet of probably 98% of our listeners. So if you're out here listening, you guys, and you're hearing all these different ingredients, you're like, wait, that's my breakfast. Wait, that's my dinner. Hey, don't worry. It's okay. We're not mad at you. We're just here to help you. We're here to teach you some things. We want to give you a little bit of insight, and stick with us through the whole episode here. And you'll undoubtedly get, a lot of gems and things you can take with you either way, no matter your dietary approach. I think it's worth saying too, Jaci, that we do obviously, on Team Flex, we do, promote macros. We do promote different, types of diets, but really what we promote the most is individuality. And working with you and the things you've discovered on your self journey as well. I think that we have really figured out, your individuality at this point, at least as far as we know, right? Because granted, me and Jaci were talking for like 45 minutes before we even started recording this. And we were talking about, what's the next evolution of Jaci? But for now, we're pretty excited with what is going on, how things are working. And, you've learned a lot. We've even approached multiple preps now with different dietary practices. So let's talk a little bit, just about meal plans for a second. And, we have zero notes today, you guys. We're winging it. We're throwing things in the mix. So if you like it, subscribe it. We got more of these coming. Meal plans, Jaci. So what do you think of meal plans just overall? Are they always terrible? Can they be done correctly? Or, do they teach you what you need to know about diets?
Yeah. So I would say everybody should start off on their journey with the beginning phase of kind of like eliminating some things from your diet just to see where you stand with your current dietary needs. You got to get
Mm-hmm.
rid of kind of everything and rebuild. So going on a meal plan isn't a terrible thing if you have a coach that explains to you the why behind what you're eating, and maybe also is very much open to hearing like how that experiment works for you, how you're feeling. I think that just saying here's a meal plan for everybody is 100% wrong. So
Yep.
if you and your neighbor and the whole group at your gym is all eating the same thing, all of you and your people, that's a red flag for me, because everybody's so bio individual and our gut microbiome is all different, right? So I personally can digest dairy so well. Like I love dairy. I could drink a carton of milk right now and be fine. But it's always been in my diet and I've never taken it out with the exception of those preps. And then I had to kind of reintroduce it and be able to tolerate it again. So it's very
Yep.
specific to me. I'm not going to program everybody with here's a carton of milk every day. It's
Right.
not going to work for everybody. So it's going to depend on your gut health and where you're at in your journey. But meal plans for certain can work. You just have to be really clear about the why and make sure you're teaching people how to get in and out of that place of following a meal plan 24/7.
Yes, meal plans can be really great to learn fundamentals of nutrition, I think. And then there's also, of course, the side of the fitness industry, which again, we talk about all the time, the bad side of fitness industry, which can really mess things up with meal plans, right? Like if your meal plan looks like the classic one I see, because, obviously we train a lot of people. I've trained many thousands of people over the years on and off, right? And I'll get people that come from other trainers, other coaches, sign up for Team Flex stuff, and they want to do whatever. I'm like, what are you eating? Send me a list to let me know what's going on here. I want to know where you're at, just to get a better insight, because I really don't base how I coach off of what somebody was eating prior, because I have my own, values about what I think they should be doing. But I do like to see what they were doing, right? And I'll see routinely, I swear, it's like this one meal plan, and it's coming from all these different coaches. It's like never coming from the same coach, but it's the same plan. It's crazy. And it's always like chicken breast, meal 1, chicken breast and asparagus, meal 2, chicken breast and green beans, meal 3, chicken breast and, maybe you get to smell a sweet potato. I don't know. It's these crazy meal plans, and it just repeats all day. And it's like, this is what people are eating. Or, you know what? Be crazy, you guys. Everybody listening here, get crazy. You can add rice to it, right? Like, this is what happens. And it's a very, when I look at that now and I see that list, like in the beginning of my career, I knew that was terrible. I was like, what are people doing here? And I was like, there's no variety. There's nothing here. That's not a sustainable thing to do. And then I realized bodybuilding is not really sustainable for the most part anyway, right? Like competing, all this and that. So, okay, maybe it fits there. But really now when I see that, you look at that and you see absolute void of nutrition. You see an absolute void of any nutrients that you actually need to be a functioning person, let alone be a good competitor, right? And this is told largely to people all around that this is the way to do this. And, I'm sure that's what the gym bro in your gym would tell you. Anybody listen to this podcast, walk up to anybody in the gym and ask them what diet they're on. And out of every 10 people, 7 or 8 of them will be doing something very similar to this. And then the other 2, who knows what they're doing. But really, this is still, and people get good results. Don't get me wrong. You can get good results with compliance to anything in the short term. Right? You could get off the couch from watching Netflix for 8 hours of your day every day, because that's what you do, and go to the gym one time. You're going to get progress. Like, don't get me wrong. Anything is better than absolutely nothing, but you do learn as you go that there's a lot more than just a diet. And there's a lot more than just getting lean. And there's a lot more than just trying to build a little bit of delts here and there. There's a lot more that comes into it, right? So meal plans can be one of those things where, when correctly done, it can definitely help you, and it can teach you a little bit, right? But I also am an advocate to say you should not always stay on meal plans, right? Jaci, what do you think of this? Should somebody get on a meal plan and just, here it is, run it? I'm on it for like 3-4 years. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, well, you need to, like I was just saying about your gut health, you need to have diversity in order to make sure that your gut, and I know this is a hot topic right now and everybody's talking about the gut microbes, which good, we should be, because the food that is out there and available right now to the average consumer is crap. Okay. A lot of it is full of overly processed things and added oils and added all kinds of junk. So you do need to be able to like follow some sort of dietary guidelines to help you get to the point that you're trying to get lean and get on stage. But rinsing and repeating the same foods over and over and over eventually is going to lead to you not having enough microbes to digest the food. That if you try something new, you're going to blow up your gut is all I'm saying. So you've got to be able to have some diversity in there. Running a meal plan for a show prep is good, and it helps with quality control, because you don't want a lot of variables when you're going into a show. You know, if you're changing up the types of carbs you're eating all the time, or one day you're eating this and the next day you're eating this, and your digestion's going to be all over the place. So it helps with consistency, and that's why I like it when we're on a prep. But when you're coming in and out of that phase, you've got to really get in touch with your body's needs. So I like to teach my girls to be intuitive and to ask a lot of questions about their body and how they're processing and digesting food. I noticed this carb doesn't really work well for me, or I noticed that this fat doesn't make me feel good. So we're exploring and experimenting with different foods. It's not just like, do this because I said and move on, right? And if your coach tells you that, I think that that's a big red flag.
Huge red flag. And it is what is done. And then you do come to find most of the time it's the exact same meal plan everybody else has. And again, it's also, it's crazy to me the amount of meal plans too that seem to have been around forever. And I'm always like, who came up with this who came up with this like whatever amount of years ago, and everybody's just doing the same thing now? Because like, it's almost like a lot of trainers and coaches, unfortunately, do not think for themselves. They just regurgitate what some other coach they had told them at one point, right? Oh, this is the way I did it, so this is the way all my clients need to do it. So this is then they get a client, and it just goes down the ladder. But there's a lot of questions that remain unanswered in the bodybuilding world when it comes to nutrition, because for one, a lot of people already, we've only been on here a few minutes now, 15 minutes or so. People are probably like, what the heck are these two talking about with the gut microbiome and this and that, and the different carb choices and all these things that come with that, because they've never even considered it, right? So many competitors, unfortunately, just go into the mode of, okay, I got to follow exactly what my coach says. I'm not going to question anything because that's what they want. Like their coach is, coaches love to get paid and they love to not answer questions, unfortunately, in this industry. So, they love to give you that meal plan and say, this is it, my way or the highway, or you're not going to be ready and it's your fault. Then don't ask me questions, just do it. And then you end up never getting there, right? You never get as good as you can. And you also don't learn, right? So That's one thing. Let's talk about macros for a second, Jaci, because macros are another thing that obviously, like I said, we promote on Team Flex, especially for lifestyle people, things like this. And I like this as another way for people to learn fundamentals of nutrition, right? And it goes, in my opinion, a little bit beyond the meal plan as far as, your educational elements, because you can bring a bit more of what you're talking about with it to it, right? Like where you can start experimenting with a little bit more food and stuff. Don't get me wrong, not everybody can start with macros, right? I encountered that a lot in my career, especially if you've been to a coach that gave you meal plans and that's all you're used to, and you've done that for 6-7 years on and off meal plans. Like, it is very scary and almost intimidating to think that you're going to control your own food. But really, as I say that, isn't that scary that is even happening to people, right? But Point is, though, macros can be one of those things where, okay, here's where your set goals are. And for those that don't know, macros basically come down to you have a goal set calories, a goal set of protein, goal set of carbs, and a goal set of fats that you're going to hit through the day. You go track foods and have, what you want to do here. And this is what I believe fundamentally almost all people that are going to train either in competing or even in lifestyle or improvement season, whatever, need to at least go through this at some point, right? And this is one part of the journey to really like figure it out. And, there's, again, the side of it that is done totally wrong. So let's talk about both sides here. What do you think about macros, Jaci?
I think that you're absolutely right. Everybody should take an account for what they're eating. So tracking macros gives you that accountability. You're logging your food, you're reflecting on your food logs and your dietary choices, and then you can drive outcomes based on information. So it takes a lot of emotion out of eating too. It's like, I ate this and this, I'm still getting results. And so I'm safe, right? I'm okay. And having a coach to guide you and explain, okay, maybe we can substitute out this for that, or helping you make healthy swaps. But I think the whole negative connotation around macro tracking is like, if it fits your macros, which is such a bad thing. And it took a good thing and made it really bad, right? So you don't want to just fill your diet with donuts and pizza, and it's all about nutrition. So if we're focused on helping our clients be well and be healthy, then you got to help them build their diet around that. So it's just guiding them on their macro choices. It's not necessarily telling them what to eat, it's telling them how to make good quality choices with their food.
Yes, and that is the unfortunate part of where macros can go wild again, right? Like you said, if it fits your macros, that was a huge thing. I don't think it is as much anymore now, but it was a very huge thing for a while. Like, people will go out of their way to try to see, oh, well, what could I eat that is absolutely the worst thing? Garbage is still garbage, people, even if you put it on a plate and look at it, right? Like, you go in your kitchen, you pull some garbage out of your kitchen garbage, you put it on a plate. It's still garbage. It doesn't mean that it's good for you, right? Like, that's how it goes. Macros, again, you do get a lot more room. And lifestyle people, don't get me wrong. People that are not competing, people that are, they want to lose 5-10 pounds, go to the beach in the summer and they want to have a good time, and largely, don't have any of these high performance goals, if you will, it matters less. Yes, you can have a little bit more, flexibility with your food and stuff. However, should you all the time be trying to, okay, well, I can eat a pizza like, I've seen a post that goes around on the internet. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I saw something that was like my meal prep because of flexible dieting. And it was like 8 a.m. Tupperware pizza, 9 a.m. Tupperware pizza, 12 p.m. Tupperware, like, it's just the, yeah, okay, great. Yeah, sure. Okay, you might be able to equate to macros eating whatever you want, but what does that actually do to your body? And that becomes a whole different level, which is, kind of the third layer I think we'll talk about here in a second. And this is the one that most applies to you, Jaci. But to keep going into macros, they do work for prep. You can be, but I will say this, right? Like, if you want to do macros on a prep, you can do it, yes, but it has to be sparingly, right? Like, it has to be like 90-10. You got to be 90% on all your good, wholesome, healthy food. I hate saying Whole Foods because Whole Foods is a place, a store, and they're not paying me, so I'm not talking about them. But like, these natural foods, these good foods, and then you can have these little bit of fun food here and there. But you realize that becomes very, very little part of what you actually do to be successful if you're going to do it. It means, yes, you can swap something. If you get absolutely tired of whatever you're eating, change it to this and that. But again, I think it devolves down into a deeper question of, why are you getting tired of the things you eat? Why are the things you eat, causing you to make you think that you need to binge eat after? Why do you save a box of candy to, for your post-competition day for 12 weeks and then eat the whole thing? What is going on with athletes in that mindset that's bringing that, right? And I think a huge part of it is avoiding nutrition. What do you think, Jaci?
100%, because when I was in a place where I was eating just such a rigid diet, like you said, it didn't have nutrients. It didn't have a lot of nutrients in it. It causes your ghrelin to go out of whack, so you're essentially setting yourself up for failure because you're not giving your body what it needs. And so I've learned the most about nutrition not from bodybuilding. I have learned it from health and wellness space and learned it from other people who have a lot of knowledge in this space. And I think the problem with bodybuilding diets is we're not understanding that there's a huge component of wellness and health that goes into looking your absolute best. So we just think, oh, we just got to get lean. Well, there's so much more to it, right? And if you don't want to be ravenous, you don't want to have all these crazy hunger cues up and down or binge post show, you've really got to be careful about how you're feeding your body during a prep. So I think that's where it goes a little haywire.
It 100% does. And, this has been the foundation of Team Flex in a lot of ways. Is the reason I started coaching competitors was because I saw all this crazy shit going on. Like, pardon my French, but I was like, what? Because I did not start, coaching competitors because I really wanted to. I'll be honest. Like, I started coaching competitors because I saw how unhealthy all of them were approaching doing a contest prep. And I knew from my experience, coaching people that were not competitors in the health and wellness space, like you're talking about, that this is 100% the wrong way to do it, right? And, the more you understand about actually the long-term evolution of bodybuilding, which most people listening probably don't, but if you look up, like for example, everybody knows golden era, Arnold's era of bodybuilding, right? They knew nothing, okay? But if you look to the eras before that, the silver era, the bronze era, like way back before we had steroids, before we had all this, crazy stuff going on, before we had so much processed food, before we had this and that, what we had was a fundamental base of you lift weights and you eat, wholesome, healthy foods, and you try to live a healthy lifestyle. You go out in the sun every day. You do these different things where you take walks. Your cardio is a walk, not a stair stepper. You're doing these different fundamental things where you're being a human being, right? That's really what we're talking about. And that was bodybuilding. Then you get healthy, you look a certain way, you go on stage, you hit your poses, and you look better than everybody else because you're the healthiest, not because you dieted yourself into a depleted zone of whatever, like, I don't know. It's crazy. It seems like a huge mismatch we have these days. And, it continues to get worse. But I have, in my career, identified the fact that I think the reason that most people are so hyper-focused on food, because competitors get very, very focused on food. Let's be honest. And granted, when I'm talking about competitors, I'm talking about mostly competitors that are not on our team because, again, we do our best. Like, there's certain parts of prep that are going to be, no matter what, you're still dieting. No matter what, you're still lifting weights. It's hard. No matter what, you still got to do cardio. All that sucks. Don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not saying that our preps are vacations. However, some people say they are compared to other coaches out there. But, realistically, those hard pieces are nothing like actually experiencing a totally starvation diet prep of way too much cardio, zero nutrients, this and that, and what happens to your body, your mind, your hormones, your metabolism, all of that when you do that. And that is considered the normal. The way that we do prep is considered not normal. And me and Jaci know this, and we sit here and we're like, how is this not the way that everybody does this? But it's because nobody really wants to think about those variables. Now, Jaci, this brings me to, okay, macros, we know they're another tool. We know meal plans are a tool. Now, what happens when, let's say, you get all these variables down, right? Maybe you figured out the meal plans enough. Maybe you got in the macro zone. You started to figure out that kind of 90-10 ratio. You started to break down a lot of those, food choices. You started to learn more about how your body responds to food. What's that next layer, that next level? Because this is the one that you clicked into, I would say over this past year for sure, you've done variances of this where, I started seeing a lot of evolution in your food choices, different things you've changed. If we looked at your food today versus what it was when you did this, ground turkey prep or whatever, way back before even me, it would look nothing like that, right?
Yeah. I look at that girl and I'm like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. So I just empathize with everybody who's been through it because like I said to you off camera, I would have eaten a paint chip or a wood chip if someone told me to, if it would have got me lean. Yeah. Right. So I get it. Like we all are intense and we want to get to that goal, but it is a night and day difference in how my skin looks, my hair, my body, how I perform in the gym. I remember taking cold baths and then hot baths just to calm my nerves because I was so starving. Like I was eating, I want to say 10 grams of fat per day for extended period of time.
Jeez.
And I'm not kidding. And because I was still tracking, but I was eating a meal plan. So I would log everything and pay attention. And I would try to deplete all the fat from my diet in the sense of like the leaner, the better, the leaner, the better. And I didn't understand that my body hormonally needs fats, right? Especially as a female who ovulates. And so I was hurting myself and I didn't know that. I think a lot of women don't know that. They think that you can just do whatever it takes and it'll be fine. The problem is it's not fine. And so you have to be able to take care of your well-being and your health. You're going to be that girl that stands out on stage because you look vibrant and healthy, not because you're the leanest, the most shredded, right? And I like to tell my girls this too. When the judges are judging you, they're looking for that vibrance and that health and that beauty. So we need to come to stage like that. We need to bring health and wellness back to bodybuilding. And that's really why I'm so passionate about coaching women and coaching them healthy and naturally, because I want to bring back that, like you said, bronze era, silver era, where people just lifted weights and they looked really freaking good and ate single ingredient food. And so, yeah, I mean, night and day difference. My body is a machine now, and I'm able to perform and I look better than I ever have, eating a completely different way.
Yeah, and it is that thing where you start to figure out what is actually fueling your body versus what is clicking a box for macros or for a meal plan even, right? Like, because again, bodybuilding, you know, to me, the things you learn in bodybuilding, there's a great amount of things you can learn that you can apply to every area of your life that can make every area of your life better. And, you know, again, foundation for why I wanted to become a coach was literally that. I remember the original mission statement, if you will, on my first website that I built said something like, I believe through fitness, you can learn things that really do make you a better person. And that is what I do believe. However, you know, a lot of bodybuilding does not do that. And it should. Bodybuilding should be something that you can do and use to enhance every area of your life. And so if you have to go like basically murder yourself or get as close as you can to doing that for 12 to 16 weeks every time you do a competition, something's got to click in your head to say there's something wrong with this, right? Like that is not the answer. That is not how you should feel. And, you know, many people unfortunately want to promote the grind and the misery and like that you should feel like total shit on prep and you should feel terrible. And I will tell you this, if these are the things you think are normal, you're doing something wrong. 100% you're doing something wrong. And that goes far beyond the trophies, the medals, all this and that, right? Like the damage you can do, especially as a female, to your hormones, to your metabolism, and to all that, even in one prep that is done incorrectly, can take you years to recover from. And this is true, folks. Like, go study this. If you don't trust Coach Rye on this, go study it yourself. Read a damn book. I don't know what you need to do, but it is true. It can take you literally years to recover. And for some of you out there, it may never happen, right? It will literally be something you just deal with for the rest of your life. And I think we've talked about that some on the, you know, prior episodes, but I've seen it time and time again, and it becomes too normal that you know, health has been removed from bodybuilding. Health is gone from bodybuilding. It isn't about that. It is really about, you know, getting crazy, this and that, or what's the most extreme we can do. And the most extreme also too, right? I could understand the justification for that if the most extreme actually meant the best result on stage. But ladies, it does not, right? If you want to be in men's open bodybuilding, okay, the most extreme look does win there because it is a circus. It looks like a circus, right? Like it is crazy. These are not normal people when you're in the top 5 at the Olympia of the men's open bodybuilding. But for women, you know, doing bikini wellness, especially at the amateur level, come on, what we're talking about here is very much so where you should still be a healthy person. You should still have all these things. And you're not a men's open bodybuilder, and you shouldn't prep like one, right? You should not prep like one. Unfortunately, many of the coaches out here that are coaching women too don't coach them like they're women. They coach them like they coach themselves. Oh yeah, well, you should walk around at 6% body fat all year because I do. You should eat all this low fat, you know, high carbs because I do. You should. It doesn't it's a mismatch. It does not match to women. It does not match to their metabolism, their hormone needs, anything else they need. And, you know, men and women are not the same when it comes to prep. And I think that has to be known.
Right. And I think that's a big point to make because we are 100% different as men and women. You know, our makeup, whether people want to admit it or not, I'm sorry, we're still very much genetically different. So how my hormones are set up are different than how a man's hormones are set up. I can't recover as well. You know, men cycle in a day's time, 24 hours, your testosterone goes up, comes down.
Yep.
Women are not like that, evolutionary. So we follow more of a 30-day cycle, a 28-day cycle with our rhythm of our body. So our hormones wax and wane like the moon, you know? And I find that even like training my women and feeding them around their cycle has yielded some incredible results for me as well. Learning how to pull back during certain times because I need to go in and nurture my body and give it different nutrients during the time where I'm leading up to my period, my cycle. So coaching women it's my passion, you know, and I want to help them heal from the inside out. And then their body is going to be a reflection of what's going on the inside too. So that's the journey that I find myself on right now with these women. Like, just get better on the inside and then your outsides are going to reflect that. But we try to work outside in a lot of times and fix what's going on out here. And then you're not dealing with what's really going on the inside, which that's going to make or break your look.
1,000%. I 100% agree with it. Actually, 1,000% agree with it because I said that first. But either way, you know, I am 100% in agreement with this because it is a huge factor. Health needs to be brought back to bodybuilding. It really does. Competing in general, you need to think about your health. You will always be a better competitor, and you will be better in every other area of your life. Because dare I say too, right, it is common to think about the fact that it is pretty well known competitors kind of do notoriously, you know, slack off or lose sight of every other area of their life while they're on prep, right? We hear about this all the time, right? Your relationships start to suffer. Your family starts to suffer. Your career starts to suffer, whatever it is. And people, again, talk about this as normal. But dare I say that all of those things, again, are coming from malnutrition that is happening on prep, right? Like your severe, intense food focus comes from the fact you're not getting nutrients, which puts you into a cycle of constantly seeking this food and feeling like literally you're starving yourself, you're dying, which means that every other area of your life you have no, you know, energy, effort, any good emotion or mood for, or anything else. And all of this starts to tick the box. So when you show up at work, you can't perform the way you need to. When you show up for your marriage, you can't perform the way you need to. When you show up for your kids, you can't perform the way you need to, but you can get on that Stairmaster, right? So that's good. No, the truth of the matter becomes all of these things that you face with your nutrition and your prep and, you know, the suffer, if you will, the grind, the suck of it, the normal part of it is not normal. And that's why you experience it on prep and only on prep. And then also why, not uncommon, let's just put this out, right? Like after your competition, most people rebound 20 to 30 pounds within usually 2 to 3 weeks. And we see it a lot. Seen it many, many times. Again, not something we do on Team Flex, but we don't coach like this. This is not the way we coach. But again, in the industry, very, very common to see that. And how has this become so normal? Okay, so suffer, starve, and lose sight of your life, basically. Try to get as close as you can to killing yourself for 12 weeks to get on stage and get yourself an award, hopefully. Maybe you don't even get one, by the way. Maybe you don't even get it. And then right after, let's just go off the rails, eat everything that you know is bad for your health, that you know is not good because you restricted it so much, so now is the time to do it. And now you've gained 20, 30 pounds of body fat back and start again. Do it again.
Yeah.
How many times do you think, those listeners out here, people listening, how many times do you think somebody could literally do that before something breaks?
Yeah, it actually breaks my heart to think about it because it's not their fault. Like somebody's guiding them usually, right? And so they're just following the plan and doing what they're supposed to do and checking the box and showing up and thinking, okay, it's just for a short period of time, but not understanding like the ramifications are so far beyond the stage. And like you said, just to be an amateur, especially, and be so freaking willing to give up everything in your life for a $15 trophy. You know what I'm saying? Like, girl, I'll go on Amazon. I'll buy you a crown. You're a queen. Like if that's what you want, you know, I'll give you a moment to feel that feel or whatever. But it's so much more than that. And so I just want to stress the importance of like, take care of you. When you're taking care of you and you're improving your life and the quality, like you said, the quality of your life, eating right, it's feeding your gut. Your gut is feeding your brain. So if you're not eating the proper foods, then you're definitely not firing on all cylinders. And so you're making poor choices and you're doing things that are outside of your character. And I'm saying me, I've done it. Yeah. I've been so focused on a goal and thinking that all or nothing mentality. And a lot of other things suffered in my life. And I was just masking a lot of things instead of really dealing with the thing that's forced, like what in your mind makes you want to be like that? You got to ask yourself that too. Why are you willing to do that? For the trophy? No, that's not enough. This has to add value to your life, and it's got to bring you joy and make people inspired around you. It's so much bigger than that.
Yes. And it is also to say too, that even once you fit your own needs with it, right? Like the example you give to the rest of the world is also very important as well, right? Mm-hmm. So if you've done the right things, these are good things for humanity, for lack of a better way to put it, versus doing all the wrong things. And then that is why we are the way we are, right? This is why we are in this spot with bodybuilding, where it is very common to be, starving yourself, killing yourself, trying to just grind your way through to the point. This is why also, by the way, everybody listening, this is why a lot of competitors, if you've paid attention to this sport for a long time, you have a hard time naming me competitors from 5 years ago. They're still actively competing, like in a big way on any level, even pros. Okay. And it's because, again, the normalcy of this, right? It does kill your at least bodybuilding goal at some point, and it could kill you, right? Like, let's be honest, let's be frank. The damage you do to your hormones, the damage you do to your metabolism, people do die competing. I mean, it's crazy to say this. It is true though. And it happens a lot more than people want to talk about. So again, when you have one body, and this is what you get for the rest of your life, this is what you get for now, for this prep, for the next year, for the kids you have, if you do, or, whatever in any way. You get one body to do this, and you get one go. Like, maybe be a little bit, just think about it a little more, right? Like, are the things you do every single day feeding your future? Or are they making sure that your future is shorter? Because you're doing one of the two when you're competing. That's it. And that's the way it is, And when it comes to timelines and stage and everything else, there's always another stage. There's always another bodybuilding stage. There's always the reason to say, okay, if I'm getting too unhealthy here with the things I'm doing, I'm getting way too food focused, I'm dieting way too hard, I'm doing too much cardio, I've restricted my foods, I don't feel good, things are not going well. Call off the prep, right? Say, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm going to try to figure out my nutrition. I'm going to try to get my calories up higher. I'm going to try to let my body recover, let everything rebalance. I'm going to take some time off the gym here. I'm going to take some time off the cardio and make sure I'm healthy as I can be. And then I'll go to the next stage, because there's not one every 10 years, folks. You can go to stages all the time in any place. You can shift your goals, shift your focus. These are all mental things that people give themselves, this finite focus on a specific date, and says, I will do whatever it takes to get there. Well, chances are it's not the Olympia, okay? And if you're listening, and even if it is, there's a lot of Olympians that will the Olympia's coming up. There will be Olympians that call their prep off 2 weeks out. There'll be Olympians that call their prep off in peak week. There'll be people that do this. You're seeing it already, because again, you know why? They're the best athletes, and they're the smartest to know that if things aren't going to plan, all right, let me pull that back. Let me take that off. I'm not going to do that, right? Because it becomes much more about making sure that you're fitting the goal for your overall health, your overall whatever, than it does to say, I got to get to this stage for this date, for this, for that, for my Instagram followers that know that I'm competing for. There's no point to do this. So start bringing health back to what you're doing. And I think, Jaci, we're probably going to have to do a whole separate episode talking about nutrient-dense foods and how they can apply to your prep and how you can bring those in and what you can do. Because we're already at another 45 minutes right here, right now, and we haven't even got to any of those foods. So we're probably just have to throw another one in. What do you think?
Yeah, I think part 2 would be great. Just going into a little bit more of now how I build my diet, what I've done to get to this place, to figure out what works best for me and my girls. And I think that's really important, because we can talk about all the things not to do wrong, but really equipping people with the tools to do better. I mean, of course, you can hire me and I can help you. But if you just want to just tune in and listen and get some really valuable information about what it looks like to rebuild your diet and get back to health, I really, want to share that with as many people as we can, because the more that people that can hear this and hopefully not repeat what I've done in the past or what we've seen in the past, that's the goal.
Yes, 100%. And that's why we do this podcast, folks. So QUADCast is live again. We are back recording as normal. Make sure you're hanging out with us. You can follow Jaci. Jaci, what's your Instagram username?
Jaci Gill, JACIGILL.
Jaci Gill. So simple. You can't forget that one, folks. Go follow Jaci for the in-between stuff, but we'll be back with episode 2 where we'll go way more in depth into actual, nutrient dense foods that you can apply to your prep to avoid these things. Because, a lot of you probably heard this and you're like, wow, this sounds like my life. This sounds like things that I am dealing with. And we're here to tell you there's a way out of that. There's a better way to do it. You can live the best of both worlds, folks. You can feel good competing. Quote me on it, folks. Quote me, and you will definitely get there, all right? Hang out with us for the next episode. We'll be back soon. Thank you guys for watching.